Hello, world. What separated your deep ball from everybody else?
My deep ball, it has a little secret sauce to it, man.
Never get too high, never get too low, but just keep moving.
The whole story is Carlos never beat me in any kind of sports in high school.
It's Friday, and for the second week in a row, I get to sit back and chill out and let smarter people than I talk some Bengals football. And we've got quite the star-studded cast. I'm Anthony Cosenza, not of the star-studded cast, but I am joined by Ace Boogie, Matt Minich, Zim WhoDey, John Sheeran, all part of the Cincy Jungle podcast channel. It's been a long time since we've been able to get all five of us together. Hey, Ace, I'll start with you, bud. How you doing?
Doing pretty good. And AC, stop selling yourself short, bro. You're definitely one of the stars of the pod for sure. But I'm doing great.
Good to see you guys. And your partner in crime, Zim, down there joining us. What's going on, Zim?
Just chilling, man. Rocking in the free world. Just trying to make it happen. I appreciate you guys being here. Let's do this, boys.
Well, I can't wait to talk about a particular backup quarterback situation with you sometime in this episode. I can't wait. I can't wait.
We're not going down that road today. We let's talk with this guy. Let's talk Joey B. I feel like I'm gonna get too amped up talking about that guy you're talking about.
Well, we'll see where we go here. John, my usual partner in crime. What's going on, man? We've had a busy couple of weeks on our show. Good to see you again, dude.
Surrounded by La Familia, life is good right now.
La Familia, that's right. And it's been a long time since we've been able to hang with him because he's an expecting father very soon here. Coach Matt Minich, congratulations on your forthcoming son on the way here. And you have one hell of a shirt on. We've been talking about this topic of conversation before.
Yeah, this is a good find.
Oh my gosh,
I'm very happy. Very happy with this purchase. Very cool. It's a little hot up here in Rhode Island today. But starting the long weekend, get the fan here going, get the Tiger Hawaiian shirt going. So, ready to relax a little bit before two big storms come on me, the baby storm and the NFL season storm. So, excited to be here. Been a while, and you know what? Someday they'll fix Game Pass and get that thing going, and maybe you'll see a little bit more of me. But I was just like, what? Gotta do another Burrow video. Nope, not here. All right, whatever. I really wanted to do a BJ Hill video. It was just like I just got frustrated looking for him. Like it's not even worth it.
Yeah. Well, that's been a thorn on a lot of people's side recently.
Oh yeah.
That's a different conversation for another time, I guess. But we're bringing you a super show. It's Labor Day weekend coming up upon us here. Looks like John's already in celebration mode, having a little seltzer down there. I love that. And
it's for the brand, man. At this point, it's just expected.
hashtag ad, right? Look. We're going to be talking about some topics. We're going to bring in some of your questions. So get in touch with us. 949-542-6241 is a call or text line. We'll be monitoring that. There are a lot of live feeds on the Orange and Black Insider YouTube channel, Twitter account, Cincy Jungle's Twitter account. We're also on Zim WhoDey's YouTube page, the New Stripe City / Orange is the New Black YouTube channel, and Cincy Jungle's Facebook page. There's a post on Cincy Jungle. There is no excuse for you to get your questions in, to not get your questions into us. So I'm gonna let Matt Bat lead off because he's the expecting father, and it's been a little while since we've talked to him. But before we do, Matt, I got a text here from the 937 area code. This is from Kevin S. And he says, I'm having a baby boy today. Would be great if you can give me a big shout out on the show today, WhoDey. And his baby boy is going to be named Caden S. So congratulations to the expecting father there. That was a cool text that we received shortly before the air, and I wanted to start off with that before we get to any questions. So congratulations there.
I like it.
Yeah.
Pod first, baby second.
There you go. There you go.
Love the loyalty.
Yeah. So Matt, what are you seeing here in the live chats that you wanna lead off with, or did you have kind of a topic of your own that you wanted to kick us off with?
You know what? I mentioned it that I wanted to do a BJ Hill video. Couldn't really do that. So I think a couple of the bigger things that have happened, bringing in BJ Hill. And I think Wyatt Ray is a pretty interesting ad, with the loss to Joseph Asai. So we've seen a lot of changes on the O-line, which we'll get to. We've seen a lot of changes on the D-line, including, bringing in a new coach in Marion Hobby. With how that is filtered out, how does everybody feel about this D-line? Are we going to be able to get pressure this year?
Yeah, I think we will be able to. I mean, I think Marion Hobby kind of has had that same kind of effect that Frank Pollock has had, just being a coach that can come in and raise the level of the defensive line, and not only just from a pass rush standpoint, from a run defense standpoint. It seems now, obviously, this is a preseason, so it's a very small sample size. There's vanilla offenses, so you can't put all your eggs in the preseason basket. But just from what we've seen, they, to me, look noticeably different than how they performed last season.
And I just want to point out one more thing, like friend of the pod, and big time, fan or Bengals fans, Mike Daniels, like unbelievable that like he came in and saved that defensive line. Like they desperately needed him last year, and this year they were able to let him go. So I mean, just thinking about that, for where they were 1 year to the next. Crazy that at this point Mike Daniels is a cut. John, what do you think about that?
Top 10 anyway.
I bring it to you because I know you're the saddest, because I know you like talking about your anime with Mike and.
I mean, man, like when they traded for Hill, it was just like, okay, they're going 11, or they're getting someone that is going to be pretty good. And I guess it makes sense that it's Daniels because he's 6 years older than Hill, and I think. And we talked about this on Wednesday. This is a transaction, a decision that I think it fits like what a lot of Bengals fans want this team to do, just to make the improvements wherever they can, even if that means letting go of someone who's obviously well loved in the locker room and well loved within the fan base. Like Mike Daniels is a good player, but I think for what they're going to ask BJ Hill to do, he fits it better. And they made a great trade in offloading Billy Price to get him. So if that's what it takes to get this move done, then it's got to happen. I'll miss him. I'll miss watching him, like reading all the stories about him in the locker room. But the team got better, and that's really what the business is about.
Yeah, I mean, and we'll get to later what trading Billy Price and cutting Michael Jordan has done to the depth in the O-line. Not necessarily bad thing, but definitely not any really experience past that first unit. But yeah, I think you make some good points that like these tough, hard decisions, like when have we been in this situation before? Like recently where you could cut guys, you could cut Michael Jordan, like you had to start Michael Jordan last year. Like now thinking about having the versatility to be able to cut him, having the versatility to be able to cut Daniels. I mean, they've definitely found a way to bring in more guys and make it more competitive in camp. I mean, Zim, is that the way you're seeing it?
Yeah, for me, I just thought that if you paid attention, I guess behind the scenes, I'm looking at Mike Daniels. They set him out the week 3 preseason game. So, I guess behind the scenes, we're talking about like upcoming season stuff, So I thought it was, that's the part of the business of the NFL that most people don't get a chance to see. You always hear these stories about players wanting more money and different things like that, but I don't feel like they communicated that to him properly, I guess, and it caught us, a little blindsided as well as a result. But I do think we, like you said, if you're ascending or you're building onto this foundation that you have, you're gonna be allowed the luxury of having some veteran leadership and guys that maybe don't play at a top tier level, but they offer a lot more in the locker room. But I guess the Bengals felt like they had, enough leadership in the building where they could sacrifice some of that. And like you said, once BJ Hill hit the roster, I mean, you saw me probably on Twitter too, John. I was saying the same thing. I listed, about 12 guys, and I was like, yeah, like there's no way that they can keep more than 10 of these guys. And that's exactly what happened. I've seen different scenarios where they had 11, but then one thing that I've been harping on the whole offseason is I think the Bengals know that they aren't going to have the best defense in the division, or they know that they're not going to have the best offense in the division, or maybe they will, or maybe they won't. They don't know. But one thing is that I think it's very clear is that they're putting a big emphasis on special teams, like with Stanley Morgan and opting for Wilcox. So, like they're going, the bad reps that you can find from Moss are like, special team stuff. So,
and Jalen Davis too, I'd say,
right.
He looked pretty good on defense, a lot better than he did on defense last year in the preseason, but he
right.
definitely showed some things on special teams too.
Exactly. And that's one of the things when the all season started, I said, I think they're absolutely going to have to make up for some of their deficiencies through special teams. And they've done that a lot in their roster building. And I don't think it afforded them the luxury of carrying 11 at that position. Anthony, one of your first questions was, how do we feel about that defensive line? I feel really good about the defensive line as a result. I think, Matt, you asked about the pressure. I don't feel as strong as, I guess about the edge position. But I think with the amount of 3 techs and the guys that they have up front, I think they made a big conservative effort to say, we are going to absolutely put in our 4-3 base package when we go against the Browns. We are going to go, like that against the Ravens, and we're going to make sure that nobody runs up the middle on us. It's going to be really tough. And they upgraded that a lot. So I am really, really, really happy with what they've done at defensive line, especially like you said, if you look at them this time last year or maybe a couple weeks into the season, Reader goes down, all these guys go down. You got Covington with how many snaps did Covington end up to? Like guys that you just got. So on paper, they look strong.
I mean, yeah, and that first that week 2 game against the Browns, it was just like they were just done. Like they had that 4th down stand in the goal line. And then after that fumble on the next drive, like you could tell, like they had like 2 quarters and like 2 minutes in that team, and like you can't blame them because of what they had and how banged up they already were. We were dependent on Geno, and right. that wasn't ever coming. Geno was never going to be Geno here again. So, yeah, he makes some good points there, and I think having Osai would have been great. Like having that young guy to pair with a guy like Hendrickson, who's a big name free agent who, has had some sack production a little bit more than some of your guys have. I think in the past we've seen that with this team that a lot of times they don't finish. You'd see even with Carl Lawson, like he would get there, he'd get the pressure, but he wasn't always getting the sacks. Hendrickson obviously was making that happen. I think Hubbard is a guy that they're really smart with. I think they get the most out of Hubbard. They scheme him into position to make plays, where I don't think he's a guy that can just take the edge against top guys all the time. But they put him in the inside. They put him at linebacker. They put him like stacked on the nose tackle and, do quick little games with him, doing stuff with him inside. So between that and like bringing in, how are they going to use a guy like Wyatt Ray? How are they going to use some of those guys will definitely be interesting. But, on top of the Mike Daniels thing, Renell Wren was the guy. That injury last year ended up being the kiss of death for him. I thought kind of with Shelvin coming in, I figured he was going to end up getting pushed out. But Josh Tupou back after opting out. So there's a guy who has some experience. So, I mean, that's going to tell you, we've seen with some of these guys that opted out, especially some of like the rookie guys, we've seen like a little bit of rust. It didn't seem like we saw a lot of him in the preseason, but they must feel pretty strongly about how he's coming back and how he kept himself in shape. Anthony, what are your thoughts on the D line here as it looks coming into the season?
Well, sarcastically speaking, nowhere to go but up, right? I mean, it's like they were one of the worst, if not the worst, in terms of pressures and sacks and all of the kind of big statistical categories. And now, to your point, Matt, you mentioned earlier, they said bye-bye to one of my personal favorites. I know a personal favorite of all of us, and Mike Daniels, who was a starter last year at a lot of different points. He started a lot of games for them last year, and they said, okay, bye. We've made all these other acquisitions. And so I think that does tell you a little bit about the state of the defensive line. I think to Zim's point, the fact that they kept big guys like Shelvin and Tupou and Reader, Those are big guys that are going to help you in the AFC North, because I know it's a passing league and all this kind of stuff, but when the weather gets crappy late in the year, and we know what the Browns like to do, they like to run the ball and set up play action. Those are going to be key guys, even if they're rotational type of players. Those are going to be key guys on the defensive line. Maybe not the guys that are going to generate a ton of quarterback pressures and sacks and all those kinds of things, but in terms of defensive line holistically speaking, those are big additions. And then
that first Browns game, we talk about that. Me and Ace talk about that all the time. Like, as much as a Browns fan wants to give a lot of credit to Baker Mayfield, go watch that first Browns game. Ran the ball, couldn't get him off the field. Ultimately, that ended us.
Yep. And I think just in general, tackling's been a point of emphasis. And I think now Osai is a big loss, but they are going to try and put it together. John and I have talked about this quite a bit. They're going to try and put it together with Sample and Wyatt Ray and, kind of a by committee approach by some of these guys to try and generate pressure. There's probably not going to be the outstanding or pretty above average sack type of seasons from a lot of different players. You're probably going to see it by committee, I think. In terms of how they're going to put that together. But that's kind of my take at this point on the defensive line.
Do you think the Osai thing, like the Osai injury, like if it happened in like OTAs, obviously we wouldn't know how big of a deal it was. But like, do you think the coaching staff was really expecting him to just blow up like that, and he was going to be a big part of the team, or do we think that like maybe they got first game? In that first game, they were like, "Oh shit, we got something here."
I think they were really thinking Carl Lawson 2.0. Look at Carl Lawson's first year. I mean, it was just third down spill type stuff. Like, and I would even come on a show. I said this before we saw him go crazy in the pre. I said, man, they can't possibly think that Osai is going to be like this guy that's just going to come in and just be some freak of nature. Then he goes in the preseason game and dominates. And I'm like, whoa. And it just threw everybody off, I think. But, yeah, that's a great question, Matt. But I think beforehand, people got to travel back in their mental memory. I don't think the expectations is – you could have been super high on Osai. I think the knock was 1 year at the position. We don't really know what, what is he going to be? There's so many different things. You kind of got him as a luxury. He fell to you, much like Carl Lawson. And then I think, it was just like, let's see what he has on third down. And then he comes out there and dominates, and he's the best player on the football field.
Yeah, I have to piggyback off of Zim on that. Like, I did a lot of research on watching Osai on the film, and I definitely thought that he was going to be a good player over time. I felt that he didn't have a huge repertoire of pass rush moves. And so I already knew that he was a try-hard guy, and I knew that he gave great effort, and I knew that he had extreme potential, but I didn't expect him to put it all together preseason game one. So that was a pleasant surprise. But the one thing that kind of upset me, and I think the Bengals were kind of thinking the same thing where they were kind of taken back. I think that they were trying to get him all of those reps because they were trying to kind of hone in and expand that technique, and it kind of backfired because he ended up getting hurt.
I mean, he needed those reps, regardless of how great he played in that game. Like Zim mentioned it, he played 1 year as an edge for Texas. So this was like his 13th career game since high school as a traditional just three-point stance edge rusher. Like, he had like 5 pressures, he had a sack, but he wasn't completely perfect. There were still plenty of reps where I guarantee you the coaches were like, we need to see better from you. You need to disengage from this block or whatever. Like, there was the conversation of, if he's playing that good in that game, you take him out before he goes too hard and gets injured. You can't, like, that doesn't go through the coach's mind when they see a guy who's 21 years old and he needs as much refinement as possible, and you're only going to get that refinement with those game reps. I think it really was just more of an unfortunate situation that you can't really look at it with hindsight, and that doesn't seem like a good process to me.
Before we get to the next one, we do have, it wouldn't be a listener questions live without this guy calling in. We've got Terrell on the line. Terrell, you still with us, man? You've been holding on for a while. How you doing?
Hey, man, y'all good, man. It's just, man, it's been an honor even try to talk football with y'all, man. Y'all the greatest, though, man. Y'all
appreciate that.
It really is, though. This is my first time talking to Jim and the coach, and I'm a big fan for y'all too. Though
man, you don't know me. I know you. You don't know me, bro. I always listen to you calling in. You the GOAT for real. What's up, bro?
I got 3 quick things that's on my mind though. Real quick. Zach, he got this his team, and worse kind of worse. Like I said, all fails. I'm looking at Darren Simmons and Luke Fickle. And then the next question I was gonna say, man, Michael Jordan, Billy Price, Fisher, just Obey and John Ross. I blame that on Marvin Lewis and Duke. And my third, man, I gotta say, man, Trey Wayne, he gotta cut that money and get that money in the bank. I gotta leave out with that, man.
Cool. Well, good hearing from you, Terrell. We'll talk about some of this stuff for a little bit on the show. Thanks for the nice compliments. Good to hear from you, and we'll talk to you soon, bud.
Oh, yeah, you already know, man. Y'all the greatest, man. Thank y'all.
All right,
I love that guy. I love that guy. I don't know if he's ever seen me before. I love that guy. He always calls in. I'll be like, man, he be super positive. That's like, he's a dope person. I thought that was...
compliments us all the time, so it's like, hey, come on the air, man.
Right. Like, just let him on. You know what's so funny? I was gonna say, hey, if y'all gonna text in, we need all y'all questions and everything, but y'all gotta stop giving my boy Anthony a hard time. We've been reading some of your funny like texts and stuff. Stop playing around with him and giving him all this stupid stuff. Like, come on, let's get real here. Y'all playing with him too much. Let's get some real questions going. We need more Terrells in the world going on.
That's right. There was a lot there. I guess one of the spots. And there's some, I guess we can talk a little bit about this because there's a lot of questions in the live chats too about it. The Trey Waynes thing. There was a question from our buddy A. Malone who was talking about, he doesn't believe in Eli Apple taking the reins there. And then, of course, a lot of complaints about the contract with Waynes. And, ironically, the Bengals did a lot of stuff in free agency last year and this year to try and really bolster areas where they've had a lot of injuries. And it still looks okay, but still, again, this year, they got hit at the edge rusher spot, right? Osai and Hubert and Sample was dinged up and, all that kind of stuff. And then, of course, Trey Waynes in the cornerback group gets dinged up. John and I talked about it a little bit in our show Wednesday in terms of Eli Apple and whatnot. But I guess, Ace, if you want to lead off a little bit about your thoughts with Waynes and where the team's at in terms of if they're able to withstand the Waynes injury for at least maybe a couple of games, if that's what the case is, and how you feel about Eli Apple stepping in for the team.
Yeah, I mean, it's frustrating, right? We signed Trey Waynes last season. You probably expected him to play, if not last year, this season. But injuries happen. And I mean, they're just a part of the game. Unfortunately, it had to happen to Trey Waynes. But similarly to last year, I think that it is an issue for the secondary. You talk about Eli Apple. The one thing I like that he has is he has a wealth of experience. But if you've actually watched Eli Apple over the years, you know why he's probably on, his third or fourth team by now. He hasn't been consistent. Now, obviously, he's a first-round guy, so the talent is there. But my expectation is I expect Eli Apple to be Eli Apple. I don't expect him, even if it was Trey Waynes, I would expect him to be Trey Waynes. So he's going to give up plays. Those are the expectations, but I would assume that they would probably try to do something similar to what they did last season with kind of a rotation between him, Darius Phillips, to try to give him a break and try to hope that can work. Now, obviously, that was one of the issues last season for this team was the secondary, mainly the cornerbacks. The safeties were good, and they tried to upgrade that. We got Mike Hilton. We ended up getting Cheeto. The good thing is that you hope that Cheeto and Mike Hilton can hold it down. Now, Mike Hilton, he has been somewhat suspect in coverage at some points, but he can do all kinds of other things. And I think that you just hope that this committee of guys with experience can actually do something. Last year, they had a lot of guys that were a committee but didn't have much experience. And so, obviously, that became an issue for them. And taking on a team like the Vikings week 1, obviously that's going to probably hurt you a little bit. You got Justin Jefferson. You got some guys there. Then you talk about Allen Robinson coming in week 2. Then you have the Steelers who have a dynamic set of receivers there. So, yeah, it's definitely going to be a challenge, and it's going to be frustrating not having Trey Waynes there. But I will say it's not like Trey Waynes is, Jalen Ramsey or something, right? There's going to be a massive drop off if you had Jalen Ramsey and you're going to Eli Apple versus Trey Waynes to Eli Apple. So there definitely will be a concern there. But I think that they just have to get by. And, maybe if it is something that's more of an issue, maybe they do need to look at the trade market to try to get a cheaper corner that's out there that's solid. But yeah, it's frustrating. I understand why the fans definitely are kind of upset because this is a guy we paid a lot of money and we haven't been able to see that dividend. But at the end of the day, it's part of the game.
Am I the only one that feels like some type of way when you watch like the Steelers, right? In two different instances, they're at a desperation. They go make the trade for Minka Fitzpatrick because they know they just don't have it, right? They go and give up their first round draft pick, right? Then flash forward to this season. They make the trade today. What are we talking about, Ace, all week? The Steelers have no corners. We know right now that we don't have strong corners. They go make a trade for Ahkello Witherspoon, who ended up pretty good, like an 80, PFF grade. I actually liked them coming out 2017. They go make a trade for him and go get a 2023 a compensatory pick or something like they just like. I hate when I see other teams doing stuff like that, and we know this already that we're not strong enough at the position. People talk about Eli Apple probably not being deserving. I'm reading the comments, not deserving of the pick. I think because they have this conservative effort to say that Darius Phillips is going to be our punt returner and they don't trust him, and Zach comes to the press conferences and he's talking about consistency every week, right? One thing we know about Darius Phillips is he wasn't consistent at the position, and I feel like he's a better corner than Eli Apple. But you don't have the luxury of doing it because you need him on special teams. You need to go get a guy. And then Terrell says, well, cut Trey Waynes. It's not that simple, sir. The amount of money that this guy is getting paid is for the third best free agent corner in that market. You look at Byron Jones and all these guys that came out that same thing. They got a couple more bucks than him. And we got this guy that unfortunately has been injured, but we kind of know his ceiling. And it puts us at a bad position because even if he does come back and has a good season, I think we'll probably start looking at cap hits at that point because now you don't even really trust him. The fan base doesn't even trust him. And the fan base doesn't trust Eli Apple. So the Bengals need to go get something. Like, I know Ahkello Witherspoon isn't a guy that nobody, people aren't just clamoring for, but it's something. And I think that goes a long way, especially when he's not a scrub.
Resident Bengals hater Joe Goodberry in the chat. Waynes ain't shit anyways. I mean, we haven't seen Trey Waynes. We haven't seen Trey Waynes since what? Like the Vikings lost to the Niners in the 2020 playoffs or something like that, or I forget how the game went. But honestly, like, it's been so long, we don't know who Trey Waynes is right now. We just knew who he was back in Minnesota, and he just hasn't been healthy. So I agree with Zim, man. Like, it's tough to say, like, yeah, just Terrell, don't talk about other people's money like that. Trey Waynes earned that bag, even though he completely finessed the Bengals front office like that. But I'm willing to give Trey Waynes a couple. I'm willing to give him a couple weeks to see what he is, before we claim him a free agency bust.
Am I off basis to say this though? Even though I understand where you're coming from, Joe. I think that's what I meant. I was just saying that I was giving it a soft landing. Like, we know it's silly, right? But don't you feel like even if he had like a above average season, he's probably a potential cap casualty type candidate now, because I don't think the fan base trusts him. I even made a tweet yesterday. I said he's like Bruce Wayne. Even when I looked at the reps and stuff like that, who do you always see in coverage against Chase or anybody? It's always a Woozier. We only heard Trey Waynes even talk one time. So the same love that we gave Mike Daniels, you can't even give him love off the field and say, man, I hope Trey Waynes get back. People don't even know who this guy is. I only seen him without a helmet one time. Have you?
Well, he was on our show right after he signed.
Yeah, we love Trey Waynes.
I was about to say, and that.
Yeah. I want to tie this one into the same, and I want you guys to definitely pick some out too here. But we got a couple of texts from two different people, and it ties in well to the Trey Waynes topic. JT from the 513 and another 513 area code both basically asked, we've talked about the injuries at the edge rusher spot. And then, of course, we're talking Trey Waynes here. We've got the 21 season to get to, I know. But next year, if you're going to take a look into the crystal ball and look at 22, where do the Bengals go early, maybe first round, with their pick next year? Is it corner? Is it edge rusher? Is it – I mean, what do you guys I'll start with you, Matt, because you didn't really chime in on this one, but I want to hear from all of you. What do you guys think in terms of where the Bengals should go position-wise next year? I know it's hard to think about 22 already, but it's a good question.
I think the thing with Trey Waynes is, like, is this going to become a Geno thing? Is this going to become a, like one of those phantom things where it's like, oh, you said it wasn't that bad, and it's kind of the same thing with Kareem, like, because I'm not saying it's going to be like that with Kareem. I think there's a much less evidence, but if Kareem Khalid doesn't come back, edge rusher is a big concern because you don't know how Osai is going to come back. You don't know necessarily what you have there. So that, that's one way to look at it. And it's the same thing with corner. Like, if Waynes doesn't come back, or if Waynes doesn't look like he can be that guy, or if Waynes comes back and he's fine, and Uzi isn't cutting it, then you got to go corner. But I mean, that would be my instinct is probably the corner position. I think you've done so much on offense over the last 3 years. As long as you're either comfortable with Reef, or you're comfortable with the way Jackson Carman is coming along, you don't really need to go anything else there on offense, I don't think. So I would lead towards corner looking at it right now.
I would love if the Bengals were able, I know I'm a West Coast guy, if they could find a way to get Kayvon Thibodeau, the defensive end out of Oregon. That kid's a stud. But again, edge rusher, and I want to hear from you guys too, but if you look at edge rusher on this team, they've already paid Sam Hubbard. They've already paid Trey Hendrickson. They've got Joseph Osai conceivably coming back next year. They may say that the cupboard's a little full for them. Hubert, all these other guys coming back. I don't know if edge rusher, I always find that to be a position you want to stack up on, but I really like the Thibodeau kid. Obviously, I saw someone else, Chris Hoskins, saying Stingley. That would probably mean the Bengals had a pretty bad year if they got Stingley there.
Thibodeau the same way, though.
Thibodeau, yeah.
Same thing. Yeah, they'd have to either trade up or have a back there. Yeah.
They have to pick number one to get Sauce Gardner.
The good thing about the corner position is sometimes you can get guys a little bit later because the corners never get drafted the way we think. I think there's a lot of scheme fit that goes into who goes where. Like the top guys go really high. Stingley will go really high to anybody. But you see some of the the Bengals like big guys that can tackle at that position. It seems to be kind of where they're trending with guys. And one of those guys might be there in the 20s.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think the prime position is corner. Obviously, edge is definitely a prime one. But when you look at the Bengals' history, they love their first round corners. If they're going to get a guy that's going to start day one, it's going to be a first round corner. They're probably not going to take a guy that's in the second or third round and throw him out there immediately. And then you talk about the Trey Waynes thing, as Zim hit on. Once he gets up there in age, I mean, the Bengals, we know how they do when it comes to guys that get older and have those cap hits and things of that nature. So I think that they would definitely be looking at corner. And as Matt said, if we're in the 20s, if they do well, you still probably have a decent pool of corners that you could still get in that range. Whereas with edge rusher, you kind of have to get those guys in the top 5, top 10 to get the Myles Garretts and the Kayvon Thibodeaus of the world. But you could still get a good corner in the 20s or within that range. So I think corner is where it would be for me, especially if we're able to walk away from the Trey Waynes situation, depending on how that plays out this season. I could see that more than them kind of moving on from Sam Hubbard and Trey Hendrickson, since they just kind of signed those guys up. And we assume that they should be able to pay off those dividends if they stay healthy. So I'm on team corner. If we have another Civil War, corner versus edge, sign me up for corner.
We might as well just cue that show up because it's going.
God damn it! It's September.
Look, and we got Mr. We need linebacker guy. He's back too. He wants in on it too. So we're gonna have like a third team as well. I agree with for me, it's always going to be for any NFL team, not just the Bengals, because the highest paid position, you got to trace the money for, unless you got a freak athlete, Kyle Pitts like level talent, tight end at the top of the board or something like that. We already know we're stacked at wide receiver for the next 3 years, so you're not going that route, right? So defensive end to me says that you had a pretty bad year in your top 10, or you're going to just go with the same formula that they've been going with and hoping you get Carl Lawson 2.0, Osai 3.0. If you go top 20, that means you had a fairly more successful year, and you probably be looking at, I forgot the guy's name that just said that, but he said Sauce. I want Sauce Gardner just because of his name. I got hella Sauce. I need the fan base to have Sauce too. So just off his name alone, I'm just going to just engulf myself in Sauce Gardner film and just make Sauce shirts. That's step one. But aside from that, to me, it's the Bengals have shown you they don't want to pay the William Jacksons of the world, so they're always going to be looking at corner. And like I said, and I'm sorry, like Matt said, you know, you're going to be able to get a premium guy. Like, where did Surtain go this past year in the draft? People already saying he's the best corner. You know, like the camp reports and everything like that are coming out right now are looking really, really good for him right now. And he fell further down in the draft than what most people thought. So you're hoping to get a guy like that. But I think it's based on the success from the season itself. If you're talking Thibodeau or Stingley, we're talking about a whole new, you know, we just blew it up all over again or something like. And Zach, you know, because Zach is gone. You know, if you're drafting Thibodeau or Stingley, like, this staff is gone. Like, that's just the easiest way. I just want to address this. Josh Cook said that Chase isn't the guy yet. I'm gonna find you every week. I'm gonna make sure that I don't know where you're at. That's a Facebook. You're logged on Facebook. I'm gonna find you every week. I'm gonna send you every highlight. I'm gonna send you every stat, and I'm gonna be on your head. And we're gonna cheer together, Josh. I don't know you, but you're gonna know me soon.
What about a free safety to replace Bates?
Man.
You had to just.
There's the bucket of cold water right there. There's the bucket of cold water.
Come on.
He was waiting to drop that one on us. I love it. Hey Zim, I'm gonna pick one for you if you don't mind, because there was a text and a comment, and the text was specific to you guys, Ace and Zim. First off, from Kevin Thomas from South Carolina. Kevin, I guess it was okay to use your last name since you also commented with your last name show. I'm going to let that go. From South Carolina, I love you guys. Zim is my guy. He's hilarious on commentary. Question for Zim. You just brought this up. Do you think Chase's drops, and we can all chime in on this, do you think Chase's drops will have a carryover into the season? And how do you think his big playability will open up the offense if they do not carry into the regular season? Obviously, Chase's preseason performance, a big headline in Bengals news and kind of around the NFL a little bit. So, Zim, bat leadoff for us on this one, since Kevin's showing you the love there.
I appreciate that. I want to say thank you, Kevin, for watching us, staying, more importantly, supporting the team when a lot of people didn't have the nuts to do it. So thank you for sticking with the gang and sticking with Cincy Jungle and watching all the guys. So I want to say that first. I want for Chase. For me, I do, and I told you this, Ace. I think I subtweeted you on something the other day, but I said I think, or I added you. I don't know the proper way to say it. I think that Chase, it does kind of carry over because it's. I can't explain it, but I do think there is a little bit of a carryover effect. Now, if you ask this, God, I do this every time we do a Super Show. If you ask Pittsburgh about Deontay Johnson, like, are they going to bench him? Are they not going to play him? There's not going to be one Pittsburgh fan that's going to tell you that they would bench him. But Deontay Johnson, if you guys don't know, leads the NFL in drops. You would take what he gives your team or the big playability or his ability to get open over the couple of drops. Antonio Brown had a bunch of drops like on one of those seasons as well. You would take the big playability over, you know, like the shortcomings of what we're seeing in it right now. I think a lot of the fan base is living it right now, and they're letting their fears outweigh the actual reality of this guy tests in the top percentile of everything. This guy won the Biletnikoff Award. This guy won a national championship. This guy was on the team in the best wide receiver. And Justin Jefferson arguably could have been rookie of the year. He was that guy. That doesn't change just because you dropped the ball in preseason a couple times. So people got to kind of wake up and stop living in the right now and take everything for what it is. Does it have a carryover effect that hits them long term? It could. We've seen that with guys for like a John Ross type like person. If the proper support isn't there and the coaching staff runs thin on them, and people say, you know what, I'm not about to spoon feed him in the rounds, and I'm not about to cater to his needs. If he isn't catching the ball, yeah, we're gonna have to give up some reps. And say Auden Tate starts beasting out, then all of a sudden there's a gradual thing that can happen. That won't happen because I'm Team Chase all the way. But I'm just telling you that's how it could happen. But I think any team or anybody that understands what he represents in the fear that he would put on the opposition's corners is just too valuable to even fathom the thought of like benching him or anything like that. But is it a thing that I think he's going to drop more passes? I think the fan base is going to start booing a couple times maybe, but I just think that the playmaking abilities and what he's capable of doing is just going to outweigh it ultimately. Week 1, I think 76 yards, 5 catches, and 1 touchdown. Week 1.
That is a bold prediction there. We've got a couple of team chasers on this. I know John was on Team Chase in the Civil War. Ace, were you Team Sewell? I forget. Wait.
I was Team Sewell, but honestly, at the end of the day, when Chase was drafted, and I sent him a shirt and stuff like that, I'm Team Chase now. You know, when guys get drafted to your team, they become a part of the team, and you have to support them. So for me, like, I have noticed that there's a lot of Team Sewell people that have said, oh, we should have taken Sewell and this and that. But it's like, clearly you're not paying attention to what's going on with Sewell in Detroit, because he has looked extremely bad. So to really just hope that Jamar Chase doesn't pan out just so you can look better for your opinion is honestly kind of ridiculous to me. And the other thing that I think is unfair is we have John Ross PTSD, and I think that Chase is catching a lot of that, and he shouldn't. I mean, he's not John Ross. This is a completely different guy. He's a rookie. He's learning, you know, the aspects of how the NFL is different. He hasn't played since 2020. There's a lot of stuff that this guy has to learn. And, you know, some people are going to say, oh, well, he was picked number 5, so he's not going to have any kind of growing pains. But, I mean, that's not realistic. All rookies have growing pains. So
he's a teenager.
Potentially it could come into the season. But, I mean, that generally has happened with all receivers all the time. Like, so if it does happen, we just want to make sure that he improves from it and gets better as the season progresses. Like, once we get to week 8, week 9 in the season, then if he's still doing it, yeah, it can be an issue. But let the guy go through those growing pains. Let him actually perform on the field first before you just completely write him off because of the last 4 years that you saw of John Ross. I don't think that that's fair. But I think even if he doesn't work out, like Zim is saying, they still have Auden Tate. They still have a number of guys that they could use. And he's only one part of the offense. You still have T. Higgins. You still have Tyler Boyd. You still have Joe Mixon that you have to feed. You got to feed the young running back as well. So for me, I don't think it's a situation where you need to hit the panic button right now. Like, yeah, you can use it as a cause for concern, which is understandable, but to just call a guy the next John Ross just because you just watched 3 years of John Ross is just not fair to him as a player, and it's not fair for the team in general.
Let me add something to this, John. I want to ask you this along with your question, and I want to ask everybody this. For the person that's sitting here right now that maybe is just really down on Chase, when you answer your question, John, tell me, what do you think is the absolute floor for Jamar Chase? Like, is it DJ Moore? Is it, like some people say he looks a lot like Steve Smith or D Hop when they watch film? I don't know. But what's the absolute floor, the worst possible thing that you could think for Jamar Chase?
The worst possible thing.
The question's to John. I got a great answer for all of this, though. I'm sorry.
No, but like the absolute floor is that he's bad. Like, that's the absolute floor. It's possible. Like, we talk all the time about what we think these guys are going to do in the pros, but we don't actually know until they're there. But it's not just John Ross PTSD. I think it's just Bengals PTSD. Like, this fan base is so entrenched with just things repeating itself because things are just the same, and it's been the same for 30 years. They don't have faith until they actually see it. And then, of course, we do this every training camp and every preseason where we overanalyze everything because it's the only thing that we can see. So if the only thing that we see is Jamar Chase dropping 4 of his 5 targets, we immediately go, oh crap, he's going to suck. Not regarding that preseason performance has negative correlation on anything that they do in their actual NFL careers. But to more accurately answer your question, Zim, I think it's just a solid player. Honestly, like, he's too athletically gifted. He was too productive in college. He's too good of a football player to completely dismantle right before our eyes at this point in time.
I would say his floor, even if he's bad, like his floor is what we wanted to get out of John Ross at the end. Like, just having a guy on the field that you had to worry about. because like that worked. Like it served a purpose that they had to account for him because defenses were threatened by him. Because as somebody who has called defenses before, like you know, when you call a defense, you're like the biggest thing you're thinking is I'm not going to get beat on one play, right? So even if you think John Ross is going to drop the ball, as a defensive coordinator, you're like, I have to stay on top of this flipping guy because he's the fastest guy ever to come through the NFL Combine. And Jamar Chase is not the fastest guy ever to come through the NFL Combine, but you have seen Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase light mother effers up, right? So you have seen that. So you are not going to be the next guy that falls for that, right? So that's it. That even if he's not good, you know, him on the field with Joe Burrow, Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins opens up a ton of opportunities for Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, Joe Mixon, all those guys. C.J. Uzomah, we don't talk enough about C.J. Uzomah because he's going to be definitely a big part of that passing game as well. So I think, like, even if he's bad, like, to me, that's his floor. And I think a lot of talk pre-draft was about go get Chase for Burrow, all right? But I think right now, Chase is the one that needs Burrow. You know, I think that having that comfort level, whereas, you know, if we flipped it, you know, and Jamar Chase was in Philadelphia having these problems, you know, he didn't know Jalen Hurts like that. You know what I mean? Like, I think having that guy you have comfort with and you've had success with to help you get through and overcome this hurdle that you have at this point in your career. I think that's huge. You know, so we talked about Burrow needing his guy, but I think really Chase needs his guy right now to get through this little hiccup early in his career.
I think, you know, we kind of, when the Bengals drafted Chase, I think we kind of sat there and we're like, hey, this is going to hit the ground running. And this, I mean, the guy didn't play football last year. And
he's a kid. He had one good year and he's a kid. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's got to get back.
And then on top of that, rookie wide receivers, they have struggles at times. There is miscommunication. What the hope is, and I've said this before, the hope is that the miscommunication issues and all of that are limited to a much lesser degree than usual with a rookie wide receiver and a young quarterback because of the familiarity with Burrow and Chase. But there's going to be a little bit of that. There's going to be some rookie struggles adjusting to the game on top of him not playing last year. So you're going to have to, at least early on, I think we're all going to have to accept there may be a tiny bit of bad along with a lot of good with Jamar Chase. That's just probably what the case is going to be. So, you know, I've kind of have to personally have had to come to that realization a little bit because I border on hitting the panic button early myself watching this team as long as I have. But that's I think that's just kind of where we have to get to in terms of acceptance. We do have another call on the line, guys, from 513 area code. I missed the name there, but who's on the line?
Hey, man, from Cincinnati. What it do, baby? What's happening, y'all?
What's going on, man?
Not much, man. Just watching my favorite content creators come together like Voltron real quick. It's a great show to see. I'm seeing teeth and smiles and all that, man. I love it. I love to see it. Part one, I just want to spread my love to all you guys, man. It's great to see y'all come together like this all the time. I watch dang near every single thing everybody puts out, and it's great. You guys have made it far more bearable to be a Bengals fan in these last half a decade, you know. So I just want to give you guys y'all credit for that, man. I try to support pretty much all y'all ventures y'all do. I just got my Migos shirt, you know, so I'm supporting the homie Ace. I'm about to go grab some cheesecake wings here in a little bit, so I'm trying to do all that. I was looking at Symbol, man. I'm not quite sold on it, but man, you guys make a convincing case. So we'll see how that goes. But
this guy's a pro.
Huh?
You're lighting it up, dude. I love it.
That's got to be my guy, Almighty Almat.
Yeah, we had him on. He's good.
I can't quite hear Zim, but I'll catch you on the rerun. But anyways, if that was him. The question I had though, staying on the receiving side of the thing, one of the biggest things that I noticed that was an issue with our offense, which was kind of masked by the fact that it's just so happens to be one of Burrow's strengths, is that it seems to always be a lack of separation when it comes to the receiving game. And I understand that, like, kind of want to borrow strength and throw in contested windows and back shoulder throws and all that stuff. But it seemed to be an issue in the year before. Do you guys think that it's just some more veteran? Are you guys seeing, is it like a scheme thing? Is it a talent thing? I'm trying to figure out what it is that we need to see, because part of one of my self-conscious doubts about the receiving corps is maybe the lack of speed. No true burner to make it help with separation, but I also know that separation sometimes is a function of play design.
Yep.
And it could be a function of how much time you get in the pocket as well. So, that didn't help at all in these last couple of years. But, I want to hear you guys go over that and talk about that for a little bit, maybe just to alleviate some of my concerns or maybe confirm some of my concerns. Who knows?
Well, appreciate you calling in, man. That's a great question. Appreciate all the compliments and the support of all of our shows. And glad you were able to call in. Appreciate it, man. We'll talk to you soon. We'll answer your question off the air there.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, man. WhoDey.
All right. WhoDey. I just quickly, the phone's lighting up here. We got a lot of different calls coming in. The one thing I would say is they have drafted guys. Yeah, there's maybe a little bit of an issue with separation in terms of T. Higgins and some of the, but a guy like Chase, there's a little more speed there, but we also see him excel, at least in the year at LSU, excel at contested catches. That's T. Higgins' forte. So where there may be a little bit of a lack of separation from some of these guys, these contested catches, Auden Tate, we know that's a strength of his as well. That's kind of a strength of the receiving corps. So while there may not be the John Ross burners, these are guys that are going to get their hands on the ball and more often than not come down with it. So I don't know who wants to go next there, but go for it.
Well, look, for me, I would say that it's no secret that the play design for a lot of this stuff, I don't think that Callahan does a bad job. I don't feel like out of everything that people could criticize Zach on, I don't think that they could probably criticize him on some of the time management stuff that sometimes Marvin Lewis got himself in trouble at halftime and different things like that. I think a lot of different times, I know we come back on the show and we talk about play calling, and I think the play calling in general is good. But is he a creative genius mind that will scheme guys open or figure out ways to get John Ross the ball? I think they're always going to probably lack that, in that sense, in the overall, let's scheme up the best plays and we're going to do intricate design work. I think this offseason, what we saw in the preseason, a lot of motion, trying to catch guys making defenses make mistakes. I think they're taking a lot off a lot of other coaches in the NFL right now, right? Getting guys into motion, making sure that they're getting the matchups that they want. That's part of it. One of the other things that I think is that, as you were just saying, AC, is a lot of these guys, T. Higgins and Auden Tate for sure, right? Their biggest strengths aren't separation. Their biggest strengths are catching the ball at the point of contact and coming down with strong hands and catching the football. The same would probably be said about Jamar Chase if he didn't have those drops in the preseason, but that is another strength of his, right? But the one thing that they don't have is I think Lamb coming out of college or something. You could just see, I could show you some clips of just route running and Deontay Johnson or go watch Keenan Allen or Devontae Adams. Those are guys that are going to run these routes, have the twitchiness that you need, and have the deep speed along with that scare the hell out of defenses. But one thing that hasn't happened is that the core of the Bengals wide receiving core hasn't been healthy enough to demand single coverage on a lot of these different times. So you have Tyler Boyd out there with Auden Tate and then maybe one other guy, but AJ Green's hurt. Or all these different things have happened throughout the years where they're not at full strength. Get this trio, the Migos, he was just saying with Ace's shirt, get the Migos at full strength. You'll see a lot more separation. But that's one of the things that I don't think route running, with the exception of Tyler Boyd, is a strength of his, but most teams know that they're going to him on third down. And then you didn't have anything to take away that, to take off the safety coming down, bearing down, and sitting on that inside route. You didn't have anything. So that's what this whole process and this thing is about. It's getting these elite athletes at those positions, the processing speed of Joe Burrow, getting the ball out of his hands where you don't have to have the twitchiness or the elite route running as a Keenan Allen or somebody like that. I don't know if that's probably the long version of what I should have said, but that's a really large question overall. but I don't think you'll ever see play calling on a Kyle Shanahan level, like where guys are just blown out and defenders are just like, who do we line up against? Because they got a running back out here out wide and they got all this other stuff going on. And I don't think you'll ever see that. So that's another deficiency, I guess, if you want to nitpick.
I mean, you're gonna see the running back lined up wide, the tight end. I mean, I think that's how they win, and that's what Burrow's really good at. So now having hopefully a competent offensive line, particularly Reef is a huge addition there. But being able to spread out, to get into those empty personnels that Burrow loves, you don't need. First of all, the ball's coming off fast. You know what I mean? So you're not really. You can get in front of a guy, you can complete a deep pass, but you're not really chucking it deep because you don't have time to do that. You got to leave people in and block to do that. So the ball's got to come off fast. Got to be a fast read. But Burrow's incredible at that. And I think when we look at receivers, I don't know. I feel like talking about separation has almost become like cliche. Like I think, it's a factor. I feel like we make way too big of a deal out of it though, because there's other ways to win. And when you're a guy that can win in those contested situations, and your quarterback is stupid accurate, like you're okay. And you don't necessarily need, when you're playing in empty. You're pretty much in man coverage because you got everything spread out so far. Like even if they're playing a zone, you're spread out so far that it's pretty much a one-on-one matchup out there. So having the quick twitch, having the timing down with your quarterback, being able to come out of those breaks, boom, get that completion, and then hopefully, I think to me where the speed is more important is the racking it. The run after the catch. That's how this team can win. So it doesn't always need to be the same thing. It doesn't always need to be the guy burning. I think you got to know what's going to be right for your team. And I think they've got the right kind of guys for the quarterback they have. And, if they can protect him and let him get into all those empty coverages, I could see this being a very good unit.
Yeah, I think like Matt said, I think they got the right guys for not only Joe Burrow, but for also this division, right? This is the AFC North, right? It's a tough division where you have to be physical. And I think that those are characteristics of all three of those guys is that they're extremely physical. You talk about T. Higgins, you talk about Tyler Boyd, gritty guys. I think even back when Marvin Lewis drafted Tyler Boyd, he asked him, did he have that Pittsburgh meal in him? And that was about his toughness. And so, I do have to tend to side with Matt when he talks about it's kind of overblown, because I remember watching JT O'Sullivan just break down some film, and there was tight coverage, and he was like, that's open in the NFL. Like, so I think a lot of people expect, these corners to not be anywhere near these guys, but that's why corners get paid. Like, you're not going to toast Jalen Ramsey. Like, that's just not going to happen. You're not going to toast William Jackson III that often. Like, these guys run 4.3s. These guys are fast on that side of the ball as well. So, that is also, I think, a factor, but I think that they've got guys that are definitely built for this division and definitely built for success to play with Burrow as well.
Jamar Chase is fast. T. Higgins is faster than he was last year. Those two things make this a much more dynamic unit than it was last year. And I think Matt had a great point that you don't necessarily need 4 Devontae Smiths out there breaking ankles with their route running. You can have guys who are better in contested catch situations if you have the accuracy of the quarterback. But I think the problem was there was a thirst for explosion from at least one receiver spot because you didn't have an athlete like that, and defenses could just sit down in these two zone shells and just like not worry about getting beat off the top. And that made it really hard for the Bengals to move the ball. All their play designs be damned. So I think just inherently having more athleticism in a receiver can open things up for your passing game and make some of your concepts that didn't work in the past, especially with a backup quarterback for half the year, it can make it work more effectively now. I just think that in itself is going to improve in ways that we just have to see it to believe it, I guess.
Well, we've got one more call on. We're going to be here just a couple more minutes. We're going long, but the phone's been blowing up. We've had a lot of comments. We've got hundreds of live viewers right now, which is pretty cool. So we've got a call on the line. Thanks for holding. We've had some long hold times for some of these folks, but who is this on the line? 513?
Greg Luther.
Oh, Greg. How you doing, bud?
What's up, Greg?
How you doing today?
Good. What's on your mind?
I tell you what, the whole Jamar Chase thing going around, people criticizing this. I mean, look at Panay Sewell in Detroit right now. If I'm not mistaken, the Bengals have gave up less sacks than he did alone. You know, so all these people are going to go back on the Sewell train and all that. And Devontae Smith, he was dropping passes too in preseason. And my question is, why is everybody just focusing on Chase and not all these others that are struggling in the preseason?
Because it's a good question, and I would say that unfortunately it's the old because it's the Bengals. That's the national narrative. That's the national media coverage. They're gonna trip over their own feet until they don't. That's my take on it, fellas. I don't know if you've got additional thoughts. Greg, thanks for calling in, bud.
We talk about NA, but at the same time, like the Bengals had two really big things they needed to do. All right, on offense. They signed a tackle and they drafted a receiver. So the alternative would be you bring a boatload of money to Kenny Golladay, and guess what? He's got hamstring issues. You know what I mean? So that was a big thing too. We had I was saying Reefer Madness, but it was Great Barrier Reef. Or, that was the thing, and then Golladay was the other one. Maybe bring in Golladay, and then he's struggling to get on the field, and you bring Penny here and he's struggling, So I think both of those things appear, the Reef thing at least is definitely appears to be working out for the Bengals. He looks like he is going to be a very good upgrade for them, and solidify that position for the first time since. I mean, even when they were good, their right tackle wasn't very good. You know what I mean? Like, who was the last right tackle that was really good? So yeah, I mean, like look at the two parts of it, how it's intertwined, because obviously if that's your plan, you're probably not going to invest in Reef. You're probably going to go for a receiver.
Put some respect on prime Andre Smith's name right there.
Last that's what I was going to say, Andre Smith, but I didn't want to get stoned. That was a hell of a 3-week run. I didn't want to get stoned.
Yeah.
All I got to say is give him hell, Greg.
All I say is
Greg came with some violence.
Bobby Hart made Andre Smith look like Willie Anderson. That's all I'll say.
Look at that! You just went down the line there. Everybody's talking about Bobby Hart, obviously, but and just kind of he got cut by the Bills. Does no one remember Marshall Newhouse?
Oh yeah, yeah.
I try not to.
That was just another
nobody was worse than John Jerry. I'm sorry.
He had a good game. I remember he played decently for like a game.
Maybe one. He was so slow and so old, and everybody beat him like a drum. He had one decent game, and that was just because the expectations were super low. Like, out of everybody that I've named recently, John Jerry is the worst one. When you had nothing. You had absolutely nothing. But people don't. I don't know.
The guard playing left tackle. That's right.
Sorry, I think just real quick with Greg. I think like the whole thing with Sewell is that I think there's a baked-in excuse with him is because he's playing technically a new position, even though he played more right tackle than left tackle since he started high school, and that he should have been training for both positions this past offseason. So that shouldn't necessarily be an excuse, but it's an easy thing to bring up if he's struggling in the preseason and he didn't play last year. But again, like, both these guys didn't play. They're going to be fine. And I think it's just silly to just continue this discussion and compare these two. Unfortunately, it's going to happen because they were linked to the Bengals like this. But,
you know what's even sillier than that? Like, the Dolphins fans that just hate the Bengals because we got Burrow. And, like, they're just acting like the Bengals suck. You know what I mean? Yeah. Or like the Herbert stuff, too. Like, people just coming in and talking about Herbert. It's like, all right, you got your guy. He's good. We got our guy. What's wrong? You know what I mean? Like, why can't we all just like good football? You know what I mean?
Right. We can be here a few more minutes, I guess. I know, Zim, you may be running up against it. Are you?
I gotta go, guys. The fam is saying I gotta get some drinks. I gotta get some food here. You guys hold it down for me. I appreciate everybody calling in today. Keep on sticking with us. Cincy Jungle rules the nation. Best pod in the world. Ooze, what's up? Tell the people what's up. What's up? All right, y'all have a great day. I love you guys. Hold on, I was about to say Memorial. Happy Labor Day. Y'all have a good one. Love you guys.
Yeah, you're the man, Zim. Thanks. We'll be here if you guys are good. Maybe just a couple more minutes. I feel like I've been bogarting the controls here. So if you guys got some other I know we've got a thread running on Cincy Jungle. I don't know if there's some good ones there. Ace, Matt, John, if you guys got some questions here.
I just want to say one thing because my guy John Wick, he's giving me some stuff here in the comments. Apparently, I missed one of his super chats. Sorry about that. He just said, I guess when we were talking about the wide receiver position, he said Jerry Rice, Randy Moss, and Terrell Owens all had drop issues. Chase will be fine. So I just wanted to let him get his shine there. And I have to agree with him. They definitely had some drop issues. I don't know about Randy Moss, but I definitely remember the T.O. ones and the Jerry Rice ones for sure.
Owens never got rid of it, did he? I mean,
Owens always still kind of followed him.
Is that just a prerequisite to be the GOAT receiver? To just have drops at some point? I don't know.
John, do you see any in the Cincy Jungle chat, the post that interest you before we hop on out?
John, while you're looking at that, like, because you're the numbers guy in the group. I mean, when a person hasn't really had a history of drops, like because we didn't see that, and people at LSU said Chase's hands were immaculate, right? So we didn't see that from him. This is a new thing. You know, it's not like John Ross that had some issues in college, I believe, too. Like, statistically speaking, is that something that's usually not sustainable when it's a new thing?
Statistically speaking, I think it's just completely mental. People have run the numbers on this. There is no clear year-to-year correlation with drops, not even from a week-to-week standpoint. Like T. Higgins, I remember last year, he had like a bad week. He like dropped 2 passes against, I believe, the Cowboys or the Giants. A couple weeks later, he pops off against the Texans. Like, it can happen to literally anybody, regardless of like the size of your hands, like the quality of the throw. If it's raining outside, it can just happen. Like, nobody's perfect. Nobody can catch everything that goes their way. And if it happens consistently, yeah, it becomes a mental block. But no, like there is no strong correlation from like drops in college to drops in the NFL. It can just happen, and then they can go away just like that.
Unless your name is Will Fuller. That's the only time.
You guys seeing any others we want to get to on a variety of different platforms here? We've been.
I do see Ing Raven in the comments, so shout out to him.
Yeah, we had Luke Knoll in the live chat.
Luke Knoll as well, yeah.
Yeah, we had Joe. It's been a veritable celebrity showcase on the show here. All kinds of big names join us. Joe Goodberry, others. What, John? I didn't hear. Was there one on the Cincy Jungle post that you wanted to get to?
Not necessarily a positive one, and I feel like we should kind of go out on maybe more of a positive note. I don't know. Anything else kind of bugging your mind, Ace? Just want to get off your chest or something?
Not really. I mean, I think we're in for a fun season, guys. Like, get ready to buckle in and just be excited. I mean, we're going to get to see Joe Burrow, all our guys healthy. I think that we're going to sneak up on a lot of people. We're going to be an interesting team to watch. And, you know, based off of what we saw last year with what Joe Burrow was able to do with, you know, not nearly, in my opinion, as much talent, it's going to be something to monitor. And I'm pretty excited to see how this team comes out. I'm not sitting here saying that they're going to win 10 or 11 games, but it'll definitely be a fun season, I think, to watch as long as we can stay as healthy as possible. So just buckle up and be ready for the ride, because I definitely am, and I can't wait to see what this team puts out as far as a product on the field.
I'm not, you know, I don't want to look past any teams. I'm not trying to look past week 1. But here's a question for everybody. How worried are we about an Andy Dalton revenge game?
No.
I'm as worried about Andy Dalton as the Browns in that Thursday night football game in his career. That's about as worried as I am about Andy Dalton's revenge.
I honestly don't know how good he's going to be when he knows he has Fields behind him. Like, just like watching how, like, I honestly don't know if that's going to be a factor for him. He didn't have to deal with that in Dallas because Dak was hurt, and
right.
You know, I think he was very up and down in this preseason. And I don't know if the Fields if that situation had an impact. So I'm very interested to see how he does, knowing that his time is limited.
The head tells me not worried, and the heart, the longtime watcher of Bengals games, tells me to be worried. Overall, though, guys, what was Andy Dalton's kryptonite? Pressure, in terms of the size of the game, the size of the moment. Pressure. When it was 1 p.m. Eastern and you're playing a really bad Jacksonville team and you're supposed to beat them by 2+ touchdowns, a bad Tennessee team at the time, whatever, and you've got Sanu and Marvin Jones and AJ Green. Hey, everything's awesome. When it's playoff time, when it's prime time, when it's a game that has some big storylines associated to it, Andy Dalton crumbles a little bit. So that maybe he played well against them last year, but that wasn't the same Bengals team at that point in time. So we'll see what happens. We had someone tell us they were from I think South America. They were watching us earlier. We've got another text.
Brazil.
Brazil coming in from Ontario, Canada.
Brazil's hard.
It's Dave. Did you guys know kickers are people too? He is asking about Evan McPherson's stat predictions this year. He says something to the effect of 27 of 30 with 450 plus yarders. Is that expecting too much? No. Let's expect a great year from Evan McPherson. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think he'll be a solid kicker. You said a 60-yarder?
He'll hit a 60-yarder this year.
He'll
at least get to attempt it, which they've never been able to be comfortable doing. So
right.
I think he'll do it.
I think he's going to be a huge factor this season for the Bengals. I have seen some people making the Justin Tucker comparisons. I probably wouldn't go that far, but I think he'll be a good kicker. I mean, it'll be nice, knock on wood, to not have to worry about any, field goals or having to go for it on fourth down because we don't trust him. So I think it'll be good to be able to come away on drives knowing that, you got your ace in the hole at kicker that can always make that field goal, because those things matter, especially when you talk about the last 2-minute drives and things like that, where you're trying to get a game-winning kickoff field goal. He's a guy that can definitely change that aspect for the Bengals.
It's going to be interesting to see how differently the Bengals, Zach Taylor, Brian Callahan, how they kind of approach games now with a potential weapon like that. They never really had a guy that could hit. Granted, we're crowning this kid a little too soon here, but from what we saw in preseason and training camp and his resume and all of that, it seems like he can hit deep kicks with regularity. So it's going to be interesting to see how that alters the game plans and in-game decisions for Zach Taylor and Brian Callahan in terms of going for it, in terms of maybe not going for it because they have a guy that could kick it, 5-10 yards further than their previous kicker, potentially with higher accuracy. So how they attack games is going to be really interesting. And it's been kind of the offseason of Darren Simmons. He got a new kicker. He kind of had his say, it seems, with keeping a guy like Stanley Morgan and Mitchell Wilcox, both special teams contributors. So, I think he continues to have a lot of sway in the organization, obviously.
October 17th, Bengals Lions, McPherson versus Seibert. There you go.
There you go.
That's a showdown to watch for.
That is a showdown.
It's particularly interesting too when you look at, you think of all the one-score games we've seen, and I don't know how many were a field goal or less, but I know game one last year was, that Chargers game, you pull a guy out there that knows how to stretch out before going out for a kick. Like maybe things get rolling a little bit better right away,
Yeah. Well, we're going to get on out of here unless you guys got a couple others that you see there in the live chats or anything else that we may have missed that we should be addressing. We seen anything of interest? Bueller.
It's the weekend, man. Let's get out of here.
Let's get out of here. Okay. Before we do, and Ace, I hope it's all right if we share this on your channel as well. Maybe some of your listeners who do not tune into our show would be interested in this, but we are partnering, at least the Orange and Black Insider is, with Simbull, SIMBULL, the website, simbull.app/OBI. It is a stock. It's like playing the stock market, but with sports. You can invest in the Cincinnati Bengals. You can invest in different teams. And when you use the promo code OBI, you get a little bit of incentive by signing up with Simbull. So if you play fantasy football, if you play survival football, if you play the stock market, any of that stuff, this is a fun way to invest in teams maybe you're passionate about or teams that you just feel you're able to make some money on. And if you love football, if you love the Bengals, if you love other sports, why not be able to make some money on teams and sports that you're passionate about, right, John?
Absolutely. Hey, Matt, real quick, who do you think is winning the AFC East this year?
Oh, jeez. I don't know, man.
Real quick.
It's got to be the Bills.
All right, so if you are confident in the Buffalo Bills winning the AFC East, then you got to go to symbol.app/OBI, get your free week of Symbol Gold, and invest in the Sim Bills. I think they're about $45 right now on the Sim NFL market. You can watch that value increase as the Bills are racking up wins. They win the AFC East, their value goes up. Then my good friend Matt can either keep saving in the Sim Bills or sell it for a higher profit, get that money back out into your pocket, reinvest in the Sim NFL market or the NBA, MLB, or college football market. It really is that easy. It is the stock market for sports. It's a lot of fun. Use the promo code OBI to get your one free week of Symbol Gold.
Going to Symbol to bet on the Sim Bills.
That's right. That's right. Yep. Well, hey, I know we Zim, you guys have got like double the amount of subscribers and whatnot that we do on YouTube. So I'm just going to say, if any of your subscribers want to hop onto our YouTube channel or anything like that, we would love to have them subscribe to our channel, where you can get a lot of good stuff from Matt in the corner there, his Chalk Talk episodes, Joe Burrow breakdowns and things of that nature. And of course, the shows that John and I do and all kinds of different stuff. So we appreciate letting us latch on to your great following, Zim. And in case there are some people
you just called him Zim.
Zim, Ace. Sorry, Ace and Zim. Ace instead. If there are, I guess if there's some people that are living under a rock and are not subscribing to your channel, where can they find all your stuff and follow you on Twitter? And all that stuff?
You guys can definitely find me at New Stripe City, and definitely be sure to subscribe to the OBI Insider YouTube channel, and definitely be sure to hit that thumbs up so that you can hear all of this great Bengals content, because that's what YouTube is about, is pushing the culture forward, getting as much Bengals YouTube content out there. But you can find me on YouTube at New Stripe City. I also have another YouTube channel. If you want to hear some views from the AFC North, it's called AFC North Talk, so please be sure to check that out as well. And then I'm on Twitter at New Stripe City.
Awesome. And Matt, where can people find your stuff?
At Coach Minich on Twitter. Pretty much everything gets linked through there. So you'll see me here on this YouTube station, and then on Cincy Jungle as well on my written work. But we also do some film rooms on there. So if you don't want to just sit and watch the whole thing, like there are kind of smaller little things we can read a little bit, watch a little clip, and kind of taking it in smaller little pieces with those film rooms. So we'll have a film room, we'll have a video every week.
Awesome. And John, I know you've got a big Twitter following and whatnot. Aside from hearing you on our show, where else can people find you and get your hot takes?
Yeah, I guess you can follow me on Twitter if you really want to. There's too many of you out there anyways, but at John2_Sheeran, and obviously Cincy Jungle with Matt, Ace, and you as well, Anthony.
Yep. Final thoughts, guys. Let's bounce out of here. Ace, what do you got for us?
Get ready for the season, man. Enjoy the weekend for sure. Spend time with your family, and yeah, let's get ready for the season.
And you and Zim are going to be at Paul Brown Stadium for kind of a special deal in Week 4, right? Where you're going to
me and Zim will be there. We will be joined by Joe Goodberry, James Rapine, Jake from Locked On, Yaz, Commissioner Yaz will be there, Malik Wright. I hope that I don't forget anyone else. But we'll all be there Week 4. I think I have a link in the description if the tickets aren't sold out yet for that game. So we'll be in town, WhoDey Nation. It's going to be a great time. So definitely show up and definitely come through. And we'll be able to watch the Bengals on Thursday night and watch Joe Burrow take on Trevor Lawrence.
Andrew's going to be there in the comments.
All right, Andrew.
You know what I mean by a point like this? John, really?
Love you, Andrew. Love you, Andrew Seiler.
Yeah, we're gonna try and get Malik on our show. I think he's maybe been on your show before, Ace. I'm great follow there for Bengals news and whatnot. But thanks for letting us latch on to your channel, Ace, and thanks for all the content you and Zim put out for the podcast channel and everything. You guys knock it out of the park, man.
Don't sell you guys short either, though. Come on, Anthony.
Well, Matt, what do you got for us? You expectant father, you, and you got to let us know when that big news drops so we can properly congratulate you, my friend.
Well, when I go full ghost for a couple of days, like you don't even see me on Twitter, that'll be a good indicator. But no, I mean, I'm expectant of good things from this team too. I mean, like it's injuries, right? Like I think they've got some talent. They've got a chance to make a pretty good run. So don't sell this team short. Don't sell your expectations short. They've got the guy. They got the guy at quarterback. They got the talent on offense. And it looks really promising on defense too. I think Lou does some really interesting stuff. It just hasn't worked. But hopefully they've got the guys yet. But like every once in a while he does some stuff and I'm like, oh, okay, that'd be pretty cool. Like poorly executed, but pretty, like you see things and you're like, all right, I would run something like that if I had the right guys. He didn't have the right guys, but so there's they could surprise people. They could really sneak up on people. They could make a pretty solid run this year. So I'm excited for that. I'm excited to see how it all comes together. It is going to take some things. It's going to take it's going to take some good coaching. So we're really going to see what these guys are all about. And obviously Zach and Lou have taken a lot of heat, and it's going to go one way or the other this year. We're going to see if that heat was deserved, or we're going to see what they really are.
Yep. Well said. John, my co-host in arms, my Bengals comrade here. Close us out, my friend. What do you got for us?
Yeah, I guess if we're just doing prognosis of the season, just be freaking interesting, man. We've been doing this for many years combined, all of us. I've been doing this for 5 years, and they've sucked all 5 years. Just be interesting, so we're not checked out by December. Whether that's 8 wins, whether that's 17 wins, whatever.
Maybe you should retire. Maybe it'll be good.
Honestly, it could be. It could be like it would unload a lot of stress from these shoulders, I guess. But something is just keeping me coming back. So we'll see.
Yeah. Mail those lucky rabbit's feet, those 4-leaf clovers, everybody to John Sheeran. I just kind of said with this team this year, they may not have a winning record. I kind of think they could be in that area though, that 500-ish, give or take a game or two. That's kind of my prediction, but I do think based on the weapons and how they've improved their team, I've kind of said this a little bit, that I think if they're going to lose, they're going to lose fun. They're going to lose by there's not going to be the lopsided. I mean, I know it doesn't sound great, but there's not going to be I don't think there's going to be these huge lopsided 30-3 type of Baltimore games or anything like that this year. I think they're going to be very competitive. I think they're going to be fun to watch. Take that for what you will, I guess, but like kind of to the point of what John said, just be interesting, just be fun and win some games, be competitive, show improvement. I think that's the name of the game. And obviously if that leads to a wild card berth, a division title, what have you, we'll see. But if you are new to this show or the Cincy Jungle channel, anything like that, you can go get our shows, Orange is the New Black, Chalk Talk for Matt Minich, Orange and Black Insider. They are all on your favorite audio streamers, whether that's iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, all the major ones. So go subscribe to that. Leave us a review, hopefully a positive one. That would be greatly appreciated if you did that. Go subscribe to the New Stripe City YouTube account. Go subscribe to the Orange and Black Insider YouTube account as well for all kinds of different content. We've got interviews, film breakdowns, analysis, post-game shows, all kinds of different stuff coming your way, courtesy of all of these guys and one who left us a little earlier in Zim WhoDey. But go check out everything that we are putting out. We have fun doing it, and hopefully you all enjoy it. But for Ace, for Matt, for John, for Zim, I'm Anthony Cosenza. This has been a Cincy Jungle podcast, Roundtable. Take it easy, everybody. WhoDey.
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 Hello, world. What separated your deep ball from everybody else?
My deep ball, it has a little secret sauce to it, man.
Never get too high, never get too low, but just keep moving.
The whole story is Carlos never beat me in any kind of sports in high school.